This is a video for the Dislyte boys. If you're not them, get out.
Hello and welcome back to Dislyte News, the Dislyte News for your Dislyte News. So, new patch is coming up, and that means I'm talking about new espers as well as a new meta. That's right, speed meta, gone. Defender meta, gone. Now it's all about that survivability. Anyways, let's start off with the previous esper first. So first off we have Lu Shang. Lu Shang, just like previously I've said, is still a pretty much must pull, but now even more so, and we'll get to that later. So he's a support esper, and as any support esper in Dislyte, you know he is a must pull. R0 is all you need for PvE content, but Rezos are pretty good for PvP, so if you want him to really excel in PvP, you might want to consider some Rezos. But you probably shouldn't use up all your wish stones on this guy just yet, because next patch we got Yujing. So Yujing is another support esper, that's right. 2 support espers. For Yujing, not really a must pull, but if you want to be in the current meta, you're probably gonna need her. Because Yujing, her first skill, basically gives her, as well as a DPS of your choice, 30% AP push, and that includes every time Avatar hits, or if you like basically do anything to make her do her first skill. So she basically just pushes your DPS like crazy. Like 30% AP is crazy. So Yujing basically just enabled Meta Liling to be able to be meta in PvP, and she also provides a buff to your DPS where it's kind of like a Lian thing where you can revive them when they die. The interesting thing about this one though is that this is a passive that triggers at the start of every single one of Yujing's turn. So if Yujing just continuously takes turns and your DPS constantly has that buff, your DPS cannot die. So this one not just enables Meta Liling, but also enables Moroyama to basically just kill anything. Well, almost anything. In terms of Rezos, R2 is really good because you can reset the cooldown for your DPS, and R6 is also really good because at R6 you basically just get the buff at the start of the round, which is really good. Oh, and another thing about Yujing, all of this thing that comes with her kit, she needs the accentuated buff that comes from Lu Shang, so you kind of need Lu Shang there for Yujing to work. So yeah, another reason for you to pull for Lu Shang. And next up, we have a new shimmer. That's right, this time we have Zhe. Zhe mostly is used to counter Wu Yu. Yep, so she's mostly used in PvP, and what she does is basically if any of the attacks come from a special turn, that means counter attack, pursuit attacks, and it quote unquote kills her, she revives and she does an S3. And this basically continues on for the entire duration. There's no cooldown on this, which is crazy. And the Rezos, they're actually pretty good too. So we're probably in trouble. So if you want to counter the Wu Yu teams, Zihe's the choice. Okay, now that all the new espers are out of the way, we can finally get to the weekly espers, which, let's be honest, people are probably not gonna pull for anymore. So for the first week, we have Tricky and Gabriel. For Tricky, there's really little use for him now, but he can be substituted for Nusi if you don't have Nusi. And if you want to pull for Tricky, R2 is honestly enough. Anything above R2, not really necessary. For Gabriel, still one of the best immunity espers in the game, and also a pretty decent support still. Still giving out like a really good stack of buffs and debuffs. If you're pulling for Gabriel, R6 is what you should aim for that 3 turns immunity. And then for week 2, we have Fengshun and Yifei. For Fengshun, still a really good support, but you kind of do need at least R2 for him to be really good. R0 is decent, but R2 is where it's at. And if you're already at R2, you might consider R4 to basically boost his damage, and that's pretty good too. So overall for Fengshun, I would still say a must pull, at least up to R2. And then there's Yifei. Ife is kind of still useless currently. Hilda and Kara kind of gives better poison than her. But, I suspect they put Ife here for a reason. Probably. Now this is very probably, but Ife might get a rework next patch because that's kind of how Dislyte works now. You go like, oh, Yuhime's useless, and then she gets reworked, and then she's suddenly like the most cracked esper out there. So there might be an Ife rework coming out soon, so you might want to keep an eye on it. Just a little bit. As of now though, Ife is not worth the pull. So for week 3, we have Mavis and Archibald, the Halloween duo. So for Mavis, she's kind of fading out of meta now, but she's still pretty good for any like of the PvE content. And the best part about her is that R0 is enough. So currently, Mavis is kind of just a good pull. Not really a must pull anymore, but still a pretty good pull. And then for Archibald, you kind of only want him for the one swing debuff. There's really little use for him now, especially now that Mavis is not really used in PvP anymore. But if you want to pull for Archibald, just like Mavis, R0 is enough. The Rezos kind of just makes him a little better, but not really anything game breaking. So yeah, that's all the espers coming out next patch. Starting next patch, meta's gonna change quite a bit. I play mostly on the new shimmer as per usual. But yeah, share more stickers. Bye.